Once upon a time, not so long ago, I found myself deep in the high forest, north of the Great Sword Mountains. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, and a mist, cold and clinging, it veiled the ancient trees. My quarry was a timber wolf, a cunning one, elusive, leading me further and further into the quiet heart of the woods. The light was fading, you know how it does when you're truly lost to the wilderness, and the canopy above grew so dense that only slivers of bruised twilight could pierce through. My boots, heavy with mud, caught on something soft, something, well, impossibly vibrant. I looked down and there it was. A perfect circle of emerald green moss, glowing with a light that couldn't possibly be natural. It shimmered, almost pulsed, like it was breathing with a life of its own. Now, a ranger like me knows to be cautious, to respect the wild hidden ways. But curiosity, maybe just exhaustion from days of tracking, had pulled me closer. I stepped through the shimmering circle. Didn't feel a barrier, not a prickle of magic, just a sudden, profound shift in the air. It was a sweetness, overwhelming, like 1,000 wildflowers bursting into bloom all at once, each scent more intoxicating than the last. The light around me changed. It wasn't fading anymore. It was an eternal twilight, soft and shimmering, alive with unseen magic. The trees themselves, they began to twist, spiraling upwards in impossible, graceful curves, their leaves humming faint, sweet melodies that seemed to weave directly into my thoughts, bypassing my ears completely. My senses, they were alive in a way I had never known. Colors burst forth, so vivid they almost hurt my eyes. The scent of those wildflowers, it made me lightheaded with its richness. And the laughter, the music, it vibrated through my bones, drawing me deeper into this wondrous strangeness. I found myself amidst a revelry unlike any feast or celebration I had ever witnessed. Sprites with wings like dragonfly silk danced with satyrs whose hooves moved with impossible agility. We danced under a sky where 2 moons hung low, one silver familiar, the other a shimmering mystical green, casting this eerie, enchanting glow upon the impossible landscape. An overwhelming euphoria washed over me, a joy so profound it brought tears to my eyes. Every worry, every weary ache from my long journey just melted away into the shimmering air. It felt like only a few hours, you know, a mere blink, a single night of pure, unadulterated bliss. But eventually, a strange pull, a sweet, melancholic ache, it whispered that it was time to leave. I found a shimmering pool, its surface cool and inviting, and stepped through. I was back in the high forest, the mist still clinging to the trees, but the air felt somehow thinner, less vibrant. The timberwolf track I had been following was long gone, covered by months of new growth. My tracking party, I found out later, had packed up and left, assuming I was lost to the wilderness or worse. Several months. All that joy, all that beauty, for a few hours that cost me half a year. The feeling of that plain, that intoxicating sense of vibrant life, it lingers still. It's a sweet melancholic ache right here in my chest. A hard-won lesson, you see, about the Feywild's deceptive beauty. And that, dear wanderers, is why you find me, Ronan Greymark, a seasoned ranger with muddy boots and a map for nearly every corner of the realms. Though some places, as you just heard, they defy even the best compass.
And I am Ember Rivenvale, a planeswalker with the dust of 1,000 worlds on my robes, and a keen fascination for the intricate weaves of magic that bind and separate the planes. This is Realm Talk, where we explore the deepest mysteries and grandest wonders of existence, drawing upon ancient lore, whispered tales, and well-lived experience as you've so vividly shared.
Tonight, we embark on a journey to a plane of breathtaking beauty and profound peril, the Feywild.
Indeed. A place where the very air breathes magic, and a single misstep can mean losing your very self, or perhaps even losing your name. We will explore its fantastical nature, its shifting lands, its curious inhabitants, and the often treacherous history of its interactions with other realms. It is a plane that truly challenges mortal perceptions of reality, a vibrant echo that holds so many secrets. To really understand the Feywild, we need to look at its place in the grand tapestry of the cosmos, its cosmological context. For many scholars, you see, the notion of the Feywild as a distinct, unified plane is actually a relatively modern understanding. It's solidified in recent centuries. Ancient traditions and theories often had a more fragmented view of where Fey creatures originated. Concepts like the plane of fairy and the wild, untamed reaches of Arvindor, that's the first layer of Arborea, were often folded into a less defined understanding. But in recent centuries, particularly with the solidification of planar theories and the mapping of the Great Wheel cosmology, we've arrived at a more encompassing perspective. The Feywild is definitively the home and cradle of Fey-lined races, particularly the Eladrin. It's not merely a wild realm, but a distinct, powerful plane unto itself.
And the stories of its creation, they are truly ancient, whispered down through the ages. The way I heard it, the primordial titans, those beings of raw elemental chaos, they were attempting to bring some semblance of order to the material plane when it was just forming, just a swirling, formless chaos.
That's a powerful way to think about it. Imagine it as a kind of cosmic surgery, I suppose, on a scale we can barely comprehend. These titans, in their efforts to shape the nascent material plane, found it was profoundly unbalanced. It held an overwhelming excess of both vibrant, radiant life energy and deep, gloomy shadow, too much of both extremes. The material plane, in its original state, was far too volatile, too extreme for the subtle balance needed to foster mortal life as we know it. So in this colossal act, they performed a separation. All the energies that were too bright, too incredibly vibrant and bursting with life were carefully excised and woven into what we now know as the Feywild. And conversely, those aspects that were too gloomy, too dark, and steeped in entropy were carved away to form its direct opposite, the Shadowfell. This primordial division is absolutely crucial. It defines the Feywild's very essence as concentrated, untamed vitality and raw, boundless emotion. It is the purest expression of life, unrestrained.
It's astonishing, isn't it? How the Feywild seem to occupy the exact same cosmological space, existing like a parallel world, a coterminous state with our own material plane. It's like a reflection, but as you said, it's so wildly different. How can a reflection be so altered?
It's not a perfect mirror image, and that's the key distinction. Think of it more as a magical lens, maybe. One that amplifies and beautifies every natural feature of the material plane to its most extreme fantastical version. A common and unassuming hill on our plane might become a majestic crystal spire peak in the Feywild. A simple forest transforms into an ancient, impossibly colored wood where the trees hum with faint melodies that can soothe or disorient. What's often absent, or merely a faint echo there, are the works of mortal civilization, our cities, our farms, our roads. The plane's wild, untamed growth reclaims them, showing the Feywild's dominance over any kind of constructed order. It's a fascinating, almost perplexing aspect that despite the material plane containing countless worlds, there is said to be only one Feywild. It reflects them all simultaneously, a single grand dream. The singular, all-encompassing nature might very well contribute to its famously inconsistent geography, and why its inhabitants seem to care so little for mortal concepts of time and distance, as if all reality bends to their whim.
Some philosophers, the ones who spend too much time staring at the stars, or maybe into a well, they say the Feywild is the very dream of the material plane. It's as if our own world and its slumbering thoughts manifest this entire realm. That always gets my imagination going.
It's a compelling idea, isn't it? That connection is as much conceptual and psychic as it is physical. This act of creation, this profound separation, it wasn't merely about aesthetically sorting planar energies, you see. It appears to have been a fundamental act of multiversal stabilization. The primordials, perhaps even unintentionally, brought a crucial balance to the material plane by isolating these emotional and energetic extremes. Our material plane now exists in a state of relative emotional equilibrium, a more temperate realm where life can flourish without being constantly overwhelmed by raw feeling. The Feywild and the Shadowfell, in turn, became the metaphysical repositories for precisely those intense energies that would otherwise overwhelm and destabilize the mortal world. They are the extremes, allowing the material plane to be the middle ground.
So, in essence, the Feywild is life, joy, and sensation cranked up to their absolute maximum, a constant state of exhilaration and vibrant energy. And the Shadowfell, then, is their exact opposite. The absence of those things, apathy, despair, a sort of creeping emptiness that chills the very soul.
Exactly. They are necessary counterweights. Their existence allows for that normal band of emotional experience we mortals are accustomed to. This implies a very delicate, interconnected balance. A significant sudden shift in the Feywild's dispositions, say, a powerful Archfey's enduring grief or an overwhelming surge of joy across the plane, could have profound and catastrophic consequences for the material plane and vice versa. History is, in fact, punctuated by events that demonstrate this, where such shifts have fueled world-threatening cataclysms and transformed entire regions. They are two sides of a fundamental coin that keep the material plane stable. In the modern understanding of the Great Wheel cosmology, these planes, the Feywild and the Shadowfell, are classified specifically as echo planes. They are distinct from the inner, outer, or transitive planes. They are coterminous with the material plane, meaning they exist in parallel right alongside it, touching at countless points. And crucially, their borders are most accessible via the border Ethereal.
Ah, the ethereal plane, that misty, shimmering realm that seems to touch everything, but is truly part of nothing, a kind of in-between space. That's how one truly gets there then.
Yeah.
That shared hazy border allows for travel.
That's the core truth of it. The border area is that misty, overlapping layer of the ethereal plane that touches all three: the material, the Feywild, and the Shadowfell. This specific planar anatomy dictates the primary methods of travel between these realms. While powerful magical incantations can certainly bridge the gap, it's these natural thin spots in the planar fabric, facilitated by the ethereal, that account for most of the traffic, both intentional and accidental, between the worlds. Your own story, as you so vividly described, is a perfect example of an accidental crossing through one of these naturally thin spots, a mere circle of moss acting as a gateway.
When I stepped into that green moss circle, it was like breathing magic itself, not just in the air, but of the air, thick and potent. It was everywhere. It seemed to soak into my very bones.
That's the fundamental truth of the Feywild. In this plane, magic isn't something you study from ancient texts or harness from an external source, like a wizard might meticulously prepare spells. It is the very atmosphere. It is the very substance of the plane, as fundamental as the air you breathe here on the material plane. It flows unhindered, completely free, far more potent and tangible than anything we experience. Every single stone, every tree, every creature there is utterly saturated with this wild magic. This pervasive arcane energy is the wellspring of its countless wonders, and naturally, its endless anomalies and dangers. It also makes the Feywild an incredible source of power for spellcasters whose abilities are tied to nature, dreams, or raw emotion. Think of certain druids who find their connection to the wild amplified beyond measure, bards whose songs influence glamour and enthrallment with terrifying ease, or even rangers who understand the primal, wild energies of nature at a visceral level. The magic isn't just present, it's alive, reacting to everything around it.
The strangest thing I saw, the thing that stuck with me the most, was a field of wildflowers. One moment they were just green stalks, nothing remarkable. The next, a Fey Lord laughed, a deep booming laugh that seemed to shake the very air, and they simply burst into bloom, vibrant and impossible. Just like that, in an instant.
That is the single most defining characteristic of the Feywild, and it's something truly unique to this plane. Emotion isn't just an internal experience as it is for us, a fleeting thought or feeling. There, it is an external, world-shaping force, a physical manifestation. The feelings of its inhabitants, especially the Archfey, those truly powerful beings who are almost gods in their own right, can literally reshape the landscape around them in real time. Your example of the flowers blooming from joy is perfect, a beautiful testament to the plane's vibrancy. But on the flip side, a hag's profound agony or consuming rage could wither a vibrant ancient forest into a blighted, desolate wasteland in moments, leaving nothing but ruin in its wake. These regions, which are known as domains, or more formally, domains of delight, are direct pockets of the Feywild that are attuned to a specific powerful ruler's emotional state, acting as extensions of their very being. Because the moods of the Fae are notoriously mercurial, shifting with the slightest whim or passing thought, these domains are among the most unpredictable and therefore the most dangerous locations in all the planes. You never know when the ground beneath your feet might change, when a sunny glade might turn into a thorny thicket, simply because of a change in the Archfey's disposition. It's a place where your very emotions could be your undoing.
I can still feel it, that overwhelming intensity of everything, the colors, the sounds, the sheer feeling of it all. It was incredible, but it was also too much. Like every sense was overloaded, stretched beyond its limit.
For any mortal visitor, the Feywild is an experience of profound sensory and emotional overload. All your senses are sharpened and heightened to an almost unbearable degree, making the material plane feel muted by comparison. Your vision becomes impossibly clear, allowing you to perceive details you'd never notice in our world. Every leaf, every dewdrop. Tastes are richer, smells more complex and intoxicating, and sounds are crisper, carrying much further and echoing within your mind. However, this amplification isn't limited to what we perceive as pleasant. Colors can be so vivid they are dizzying, almost painful to behold, causing a strange kind of exhaustion. Shadows become so deep and absolute they seem to swallow all light around them, creating pockets of oppressive darkness. And crucially, this sensory amplification extends inward to your very emotional state. Every single feeling, whether it's positive or negative, is intensified to an extreme. A moment of simple happiness can swell into an overwhelming, almost suffocating euphoria that leaves you weeping with joy. A minor slight, something you might shrug off on the material plane, can ignite a consuming, homicidal rage that burns away all reason. This makes it perilously easy for your impulses to overwhelm your reason, for a visitor to lose themselves entirely to an extreme, exaggerated version of their own personality. It's a danger that's symmetrical to that of the Shadowfell, but inverted. While the Shadowfell drains a visitor of all emotion until they become the least version of themselves, detached and hollow, the Feywild overwhelms them with feeling until they become the most extreme version of themselves, consumed by passion. Both planes, in their own unique ways, threaten to utterly erase the individual you once were, to warp you into something unrecognizable.
Trying to draw a map of the Feywild is like trying to catch mist in a sieve, or trying to measure the wind. I tried, after I got back, to sketch out what I remembered, the paths I took, the landmarks I saw. But the landscape on my parchment seemed to change itself with the moon's phases, or even as I looked away and back again. Utterly useless.
That's because the fundamental laws of physics that govern the material plane are mere suggestions, almost polite requests in the Feywild. This is most apparent in the plane's famously fluid and unreliable concepts of distance and time. Every attempt by mortal cartographers to create a definitive, unchanging map of the Feywild has always ended in utter failure. The plane is morphic, meaning it can change its shape and form at will, and it is ever-changing, a living, breathing entity that shifts its contours. Landmarks shift their locations without warning, appearing and disappearing. The very distance between 2 points can expand or contract without warning, meaning a journey that looks short could take a lifetime. You cannot rely on cardinal directions like north, south, east, and west. They are utterly useless there. Instead, navigation is often described in abstract poetic terms such as journeying from twilight to starlight or from dusk until dawn, relying on ephemeral qualities rather than fixed points. And the length of a journey can even be influenced by a traveler's emotional state. A destination that is feared or dreaded will literally seem to recede with every step, the journey stretching into an eternity. Conversely, a place one eagerly wishes to reach may arrive far sooner than any logical calculation would dictate, as if the land itself conspires with your desires.
The old cautionary tales about mortals who spent a single night in the Feywild, only to return and find centuries had passed back home. Yeah. Even my own experience, though less extreme, still gave me a chilling understanding of that peril. Months gone. Just vanished.
That is the plane's temporal instability, and it is even more perilous than its mutable geography. Time within the Feywild does not flow in sync with the rest of the multiverse, and this phenomenon has given rise to countless cautionary tales across all worlds. The classic example, as you mentioned, is a mortal who experiences what feels like a single night of revelry in a Fey court, dancing until dawn, only to escape back to their home and discover that 100 years have passed. This time warp effect is dangerously unpredictable. On some occasions, a visitor might spend a year in the Feywild and return to the material plane to find that only a day has passed, or sometimes even no time at all has elapsed, as if they stepped through a doorway and immediately returned. In some of the most tragic cases recorded in lore, a mortal returns from the Feywild only to have all the missed years catch up to them instantaneously, causing them to age to dust in a horrifying flash, their life stolen in a single brutal moment. This chilling fate is directly inspired by ancient myths, like the tales of mortals returning from legendary lands. There's truly no fixed ratio or formula to calculate this time dilation. Its chaotic nature is a core defining feature of the plane itself. Scholars, for the sake of understanding and for those who dare to adventure there, have observed that the temporal shift can range from minutes to years passing on the material plane for every day spent within the Feywild, often determined by pure chance upon exiting. It's a truly terrifying lottery.
It's an immense gamble, isn't it? For any adventurer who has family, friends, or even a kingdom they care about back in the mortal world, you might go on a simple errand, and everything you know, everyone you know, gone.
Absolutely. This temporal fluidity makes any journey into the Feywild an immense gamble, especially for those with attachments and responsibilities in the mortal world. A hero might venture into the plane of Fairy on a seemingly simple quest, one that they believe will take only a few days or weeks to complete, only to return and find their kingdom in ruins, their loved ones long dead, and their entire world irrevocably changed by the passage of time they unknowingly bypassed. It emphasizes the profound personal cost and the sheer unpredictability of any such journey. This danger means that only the desperate, the foolish, or those with no ties to the material plane would willingly spend significant time there. It forces a unique kind of self-reflection. What are you willing to lose for whatever you seek in the Feywild?
The beauty of it, though, it was almost painful. Mountains that pierced the sky like crystal, rivers that hummed with quiet songs. It felt more real than real, more vibrant, more alive than anything I'd ever witnessed.
That's the hyper-real reflection at play, the amplification we spoke of. The geography of the Feywild is best understood as an exaggerated, fantastical version of its material plane counterpart. Natural landmarks are amplified into truly spectacular forms. Mountains are not just taller, but more jagged, their peaks often piercing the twilight sky like spires made of pure crystal, catching and refracting the light in impossible ways. Rivers flow with an impossible clarity, their waters often humming with faint magical melodies as you observed, sometimes even appearing to glow from within. Forests are ancient and impossibly lush, filled with towering trees whose leaves shimmer in a constant shifting spectrum of colors like living jewels. The entire landscape, everywhere you look, is bathed in the soft, ethereal light of an eternal twilight. The sun hangs perpetually low on the horizon, caught in a timeless state of either rising or setting, painting the sky in faded yet breathtakingly beautiful colors of violet, rose, and deep indigo. Now, while this eternal twilight is the default state of the Feywild, it's by no means uniform across the entire plane. Light in the Feywild is a mutable property, often influenced directly by the will of the plane's most powerful inhabitants. Light might emanate not just from that stationary sun, but from swarms of fireflies, countless as stars, or from glowing fungi on cavern walls that pulse with soft light, from bioluminescent plants that illuminate their surroundings, or even from enchanted lanterns that float lazily in the air, drifting like lost spirits. Furthermore, within the personal domains of the Archfey, the light can be precisely whatever the ruler desires, reflecting their mood and power. A domain of delight might be locked in perpetual, brilliant daylight, for instance, filled with the warmth of summer, or plunged into an endless moonlit night shrouded in mist and shadow. Some powerful domains might even possess their own unique, localized day-night cycles, completely independent of the rest of the plane's twilight, showcasing the Archfey's absolute dominion. It truly is a place where light and shadow are tools of magic, not just natural phenomena. While much of the Feywild remains a trackless, amorphic wilderness, always shifting and changing, certain regions have been identified and, at least to some extent, mapped by planar explorers who have dared to linger. The most significant of these is perhaps the Valley of Seasons. It's described as a low river valley nestled between two mountain ranges, and it's widely considered the metaphorical center of the entire Feywild, a kind of anchor point for the plane's wild energies.
I heard tell of that place. They say the closer you are to the Valley of Seasons, the stronger the connection to the material plane, a faint tether back to reality. The further away you stray, the more alien and distorted the Feywild becomes, making it all but impossible to find your way back. It's where you truly risk getting hopelessly lost, not just physically, but perhaps in spirit too.
That's precisely right. It becomes increasingly easy to become utterly disconnected from the mortal world, to lose your way in every sense of the word. Beyond the Valley of Seasons, other notable regions have been documented. There's Clear Waters, a domain filled with countless freshwater lakes and streams where the water is so pure it flows with crystal clarity, said to possess healing properties. This territory is said to be ruled by an Archfey known as the Queen of Clear Waters, whose very being resonates with purity and fluidity. Then there are the labyrinthine warrens, an unsettling landscape of endless rolling hills where the paths worn by ancient animals and forgotten footsteps frequently dive underground, forming a confusing, twisting network of subterranean tunnels.
You need a map made of thread and a ball of wits just to survive those warrens. Sounds like a place where even a seasoned ranger would get turned around, where every turn looks exactly the same, yet leads somewhere entirely new. A nightmare for navigation.
Indeed. Another region is Broken Stone Vale, a rugged domain that holds a grim history, having been conquered from proud Eladrin lords by savage lycanthropes in a bloody war that scarred the very land.
They say the moon there is brighter and lingers longer in the sky, a perpetual full moon that fuels the werebeast's savage nature. A truly dangerous place, where the wild hunger of the beasts is always at its peak.
And finally, there is Svartalfheim, the mountainous homeland of the fierce and wild Korrids, creatures known for their stonecraft and wild beards. This region is thought to be the Feywild's reflection of places like Mirabar, those rugged mining towns in the north, and the towering mountain range known as the spine of the world on the material plane. Its borders are protected by powerful magical constructs forged from living stone, resilient wood, and even cold iron, a rare substance in the Feywild that repels many Fey creatures. These locations, though mutable and sometimes elusive, provide some anchors in the ever-shifting landscape of the plane, offering a glimpse into its diverse and often perilous geography. The most powerful entities native to the Feywild are undoubtedly the Archfey. These godlike beings possess immense magical ability and a singular, often eccentric personality. They are the architects of the plane's most wondrous and perilous locations, their will shaping reality itself.
And they carve out their own kingdoms, don't they? Given their inherent connection to the plane, I imagine they don't just live there, they actively shape it. Do they literally carve out their own domains based on their whims?
They do, and it is a breathtaking sight to behold. They establish personal kingdoms known as domains of delight. These are, in a way, the Feywild's answer to the Shadowfell's infamous domains of dread. But instead of fear and despair, they are steeped in the Archfey's personal delight, their ruling emotion, whatever it may be. A domain of delight is a direct, physical manifestation of its ruler's psyche. The entire landscape, the weather patterns, the very creatures that inhabit it, even the local physical laws, are all shaped by that Archfey's personality, their deepest obsessions, and their current emotional state. For instance, a benevolent and joyous Archfey might rule a domain of perpetual summer, filled with the sounds of music and laughter where flowers never fade. Conversely, a covetous Archfey, obsessed with hoarding treasures, might rule a domain of hidden vaults and deadly traps, where paths twist and turn to guard their secrets. A mercurial Archfey, prone to rapid mood swings, might have a domain that shifts its very nature from one moment to the next, with the weather turning from sunny to raging storms as their mood sours without warning. These domains are far from static. As an Archfey's power waxes or wanes, their domain can expand or shrink, encroaching on others. When two domains grow large enough to overlap, it often sparks fierce territorial disputes and intense power struggles between their rulers, sometimes erupting into full-scale, whimsical wars that reshape the landscape for centuries. We have some well-documented examples that truly illustrate the nature of these domains and the Archfey who shaped them. Consider Prismeer, for instance. This domain, a subject of much recent lore, is divided into 3 distinct regions: Hither, Thither, and Yon. Each of these reflects a different aspect of its fragmented rulership, showcasing how a single domain can be shaped by complex internal politics and highly variable emotional states. It's a prime example of how the ruler's internal struggles manifest physically, right there in the land itself.
And then there's the cautionary tale of Orsul, the Great Gardener. I remember hearing that when around a campfire, a truly pure tragedy, almost like a fable warning against ambition.
It is indeed. The story of Orsul's garden serves as a stark warning. Orsul was an Archfey utterly obsessed with cultivating the multiverse's most perfect garden. He gathered Flora and Fauna from across countless planes, driven by this singular ambition to create unparalleled beauty. However, his ambition led to his downfall when he accidentally introduced lycanthropes to the Feywild, hoping to incorporate their wildness into his perfect creation. This act sparked a terrible war that ultimately destroyed his beautiful domain, transforming it into a scarred wasteland. The tragedy deepens. He was tricked by the Queen of Air and Darkness, a rival power, and his corrupted garden now lies within the desolate Shadowfell, a desolate and blighted land. It stands as a testament to the perilous consequences of unchecked Fey ambition and the bitter rivalries between the Archfey, reminding us that even great beauty can be corrupted. The Archfey themselves are as varied and fantastical as the plane they inhabit. Each possesses unique motivations and claims dominion over distinct aspects of the Feywild. We can group the Archfey broadly into forces of structured beauty and order, like Titania of the Seelie Court, or untamed wildness, like the enigmatic Queen of Air and Darkness. But then there are the unpredictable, independent powers, each carving out domains that are reflections of their very souls. You have Titania, the Summer Queen, who is often described as flirty, pragmatic, yet capable of terrifying vengeance. She embodies beauty, perfection, summer, and life itself, and is the undisputed ruler of the Seelie Court. Her domain is a place of endless sunlight and vibrant growth.
Then there's the Queen of Air and Darkness, often called Queen Mab. Malicious, jealous, mysterious, associated with winter, darkness, secrets, and raw power. She holds sway over the Unseelie Court. A truly formidable and chilling presence, her power is built on shadows and cunning, not someone you want to cross lightly, or at all, really.
And Oberon, the Green Lord, who embodies wild nature and the hunt in its most primal form. He is both insane and incredibly intelligent, a paradox of intellect and primal instinct, and typically aligned with the Seelie Court. Then there's Hersam, the Prince of Fools, a figure both comedic and savage, the master of pranks and chaos, often associated with satyrs and other revelers. He operates independently of the major courts, truly a wild spirit unbound by formality.
And the Raven Queen, whose true name is lost to time, a figure of silent judgment, grim and just, with a fierce hatred for the undead. She rules over liminal spaces, fate, and ravens, often belonging to the Gloaming Court or acting as an independent tower, a collector of souls and secrets, a powerful, somber figure.
Baba Yaga, the witch mother, is unpredictable and hungering, dealing in dangerous secrets, often associated with hags and perilous bargains that twist fate. She too often stands independent or leans towards the unseelie, a force of primal ancient magic. The Prince of Frost is a figure of cold, heartless sorrow, embodying vengeance, ice, and rejection, a prominent and tragic figure in the unseelie court. And Larue, the unicorn queen, who is peaceful and life-giving, associated with unicorns, rainbows, and purity, a beacon of light and kindness within the Seelie court. Finally, Zybilna, the Lady of a Carnival, is orderly, secretive, and lawful, tied to bargains in the famous Witchlight Carnival, a figure whose very nature is tied to contracts and hidden truths, often considered unseelie by her very nature, despite her outwardly playful demeanor.
Even for an old ranger like me, someone who's seen a fair share of strange beings, keeping track of these Archfey and their endless schemes. Yeah, it's a full-time job. You cross their path, you best know who you're dealing with, or you might find yourself part of their next grand game without even knowing the rules. Best avoided, if you ask me. So does even the darkness have an echo in this place? Does the Feywild have its own version of the material plane's Underdark, a subterranean realm of its own, that deep, dark place beneath our feet?
It does indeed. Just as the surface of the material plane has its subterranean reflection in the Underdark, so too does the Feywild have its own cavernous underworld, known as the Fadark. And true to the nature of the Feywild, it is a more majestic, more fantastic, and often far more dangerous version of its material plane counterpart. Imagine its vast caverns, not just large, but filled with echoes of ancient, unspoken dread, where the bioluminescent fungi pulse like alien hearts, casting an eerie yet profoundly beautiful glow through the perpetual darkness. The ecology of the Fadark is like an amplified version of our Underdarks, but infused with wild magic that makes everything unpredictable. The geography is a maddening maze of twisting tunnels that open into caverns the size of entire countries, their ceilings glittering with veins of precious gems and glowing stones that serve as stars in the endless night of the deep. Some of these immense caverns are even large enough to contain entire surface world ecosystems, like mist-shrouded forests and fetid swamps, hidden deep beneath the ground, untouched by the sun. What's also crucial to understand is that the Fadark isn't an isolated realm. It contains numerous portals that link it directly to the material plane's Underdark, allowing for subterranean passage between the two worlds, meaning dangers from one can spill into the other.
Who could possibly rule such a dark mirror? What denizens, what monstrous beings would lurk in such a place? Sounds terrifying.
The undisputed rulers of the Fadark are the Fomorians. These are a race of hideous giants, truly monstrous beings who are the Fey reflection of the material plane's primordial titans, but twisted by a terrible curse. They are beings of immense raw power, but they are cursed with grotesque deformities and consumed by a deep-seated paranoia, leading them to see enemies everywhere. Each Fomorian lord rules over a city-state, and they are engaged in constant brutal warfare with one another for territory and power, their conflicts echoing through the vast caverns. Their subjects live in perpetual terror, as the Fomorian lords are known to swiftly and brutally kill anyone they suspect of being a potential rival or assassin, making life under their rule a constant, fearful dance. The most powerful of all Fomorian realms is said to be Magteria, a city that stands within a cavern lit by the ethereal, otherworldly light of countless gems, a twisted jewel in the darkness. Beyond the Fomorians and their Cyclops minions who serve as their enforcers, the Fadark is home to a host of other strange and malevolent creatures. These include reclusive communities of gnomes, far more secretive and wild than their surface cousins, vast colonies of myconids, mushroom-like beings whose spores can enthrall, and the unsettling, web-spinning chitin, eight-legged horrors that weave webs of despair and capture. Each creature here is a testament to magic run wild in darkness, uniquely adapted to this twisted reflection.
And I've heard chilling tales of even darker things lurking in those depths. Things like the mysterious Elnur, a race of night elves who rarely show themselves, and other horrors whose primary goal is said to be the utter destruction of the vibrant world on the surface above. It makes one wonder what kind of nightmares our own Underdark reflects into the Feywild, given how terrifying it is already. Brr, not a place I'd fancy visiting.
The political landscape of the Feywild is dominated by a great rivalry between two major factions, or courts. This division is the primary lens through which most Fey society is understood, though the precise nature of their opposition is a subject of much scholarly debate and ongoing conflict. First, we have the Seelie Court, often called the Summer Court. This court, led by the formidable Queen Titania, is most often associated with summer, light, life, and aspects mortals might perceive as good, or at least benevolent beauty.
But don't mistake them for simple benevolence. That's a mistake that can cost you dearly, more than just your purse. Their goodness is a sharp blade, I reckon.
You are absolutely right. To equate the Seelie with simple benevolence is a grave error that many a mortal has made to their regret. They value beauty, perfection, meticulous etiquette, and ancient tradition with a terrifying ferocity. Theirs is a society of extreme elitism, restricting membership and status to only those of pure Fey bloodline, viewing others as lesser. While they may appear gracious and welcoming, and their pranks might seem harmless at first glance, a slight against their exquisite aesthetic or a breach of their incredibly complex etiquette can unleash a wrath as devastating as a forest fire or a hurricane, wiping away all that offends them. Their court is a swirling vortex of endless political maneuvering, whispered gossip, and the relentless pursuit of status. They achieve this through hosting grand events and patronizing gifted artists, who are often mortals abducted from other planes for their amusement, compelled to create beauty for the Fae's pleasure, sometimes forever. Their domain is Chateau Faria, an awe-inspiring palace of emeralds and other precious gems that teems with life, and it is located in the Feywild's echo of Neverwinter, that famous city in the north. In stark contrast, we have the Unseelie Court, often known as the Gloaming Court. They are ruled from the shadows by the enigmatic Queen of Air and Darkness. This court embodies winter, twilight, gloom, and, significantly, the necessary role of death within the natural cycle, the harsh truths of existence.
Mortals often jump to label them evil, but from what I've seen and heard, they're more accurately described as pragmatic, malicious, and driven primarily by the acquisition of power and influence. They have a raw, untamed edge, a brutal honesty to their dealings. Maybe not good, but certainly not simple evil either.
Precisely. In stark contrast to the Seelie, the Unseelie Court is far more inclusive, welcoming anyone with even a single drop of Fey blood into their ranks, or even powerful mortals who impress them. They offer patronage to any creature, Fey or otherwise, that demonstrates exceptional strength, cunning, or talent, for they respect power above all else. This inclusivity might make them seem more approachable for outsiders, but rest assured they are no less dangerous. Their games are often deadly serious, and their bargains are notoriously perilous, always weighted heavily in their favor, seeking to gain more than they give. Their domain is Arctis Tor, an imposing castle constructed entirely of ice and black stone, a place of chilling beauty. It is located in the Feywild's reflection of Ironslag, that harsh dwarven city in the spine of the world on the material plane, and is surrounded by harsh, windswept mountains and dead forests where only the strongest creatures manage to survive. The rivalry between these two great courts is not a simple war of good versus evil, as mortals might wish to categorize it, a battle of light versus darkness. It stems from a deep, personal, and profoundly jealous competition between their respective queens, a millennia-old struggle for supremacy and influence. Their conflict is a grand game of one-upmanship played out across the entire plane, involving everything from lavish displays of fashion and audacious magical gifts to outright brutal warfare. What's often overlooked is that levity and wit are frequently seen as greater displays of strength and cunning than mere brute force, a clever trick often winning out over a mighty blow.
I've also heard other tales of courts, beyond just the Seelie and Unseelie, more nuanced groupings perhaps. Seems too simple for the Fae, just two sides.
You're right to note that. This binary structure is the most common model, but it is not the only one, and the Feywild is far too complex for simple categorization. Some lore traditions propose a more complex system of 4 courts, each aligned with a specific season and a corresponding emotional state. These are the Spring Court, associated with joy and desire, the Summer Court, which embodies wrath and boldness, the Autumn Court, linked to peace and fear, and the Winter Court, associated with sorrow and contemplation. In this framework, the Spring and Summer courts typically align with the Seelie philosophy, embodying the vibrant, outward-looking aspects of nature, while the Autumn and Winter courts embody the Unseelie mindset, representing nature's colder, more internal, and unforgiving aspects. Still, other sources speak of a gloaming court as a distinct third faction, ruled by figures like the Raven Queen, dwelling in the twilight between the vibrant and the desolate, and a large population of wild fae who reject all courts entirely and answer to no one but their own inscrutable whims, embodying pure, untamed chaos. Ultimately, these differing political structures are more than just societal arrangements or grand displays of power. They represent competing philosophies about the fundamental nature of existence itself. The Seelie Court, with its obsession with purity and perfection, embodies the idea of nature as a curated, idealized garden, a state of being to be perfected and preserved at all costs, a vision of beauty made manifest. The Unseelie Court, with its pragmatic focus on power and its acceptance of all comers, represents nature as a raw, untamed untamed wilderness where strength is the only truth and survival is the only law. A brutal but honest view of existence. The four-season model presents nature as an endless emotional cycle, where the world state is a direct reflection of its inhabitants' constantly shifting feelings, a mirror to the soul.
So the conflicts of the Feywild aren't just over land or influence. They're a grand, planar scale debate over the very definition of what it means to be natural, over what truth truly holds sway. It puts a whole new spin on an old quarrel, doesn't it? A struggle for the very soul of the plane. Fascinating. The plant life in the Feywild. Bewildering, both incredibly beautiful and incredibly dangerous all at once. You really can't trust what your eyes tell you there.
That's because the Feywild's potent magic infuses all life within it, resulting in a unique and often hazardous ecology. Its flora and fauna are not merely plants and animals. They're living manifestations of the plane's whimsical and perilous nature, each one a minor miracle or a deadly trap. Take, for example, moon pearls. These aren't true pearls at all, but small, heavy, bluish stones found in Feywild streams, often nestled in the clear waters. Each contains a milky imperfection that waxes and wanes to perfectly match the current phase of the moon, making them incredibly prized by Fey jewelers for their magical properties and ethereal beauty. Then there's a passion bell, a translucent bell-shaped flower that glows with a soft white light appearing harmless. When touched by a mortal experiencing a powerful emotion, however, the flower instantly changes its color and shape to perfectly match that feeling, holding this new form for an entire year. Anyone who subsequently touches the altered flower experiences a psychic echo of the original emotion that first transformed it, making them feel what was once felt there.
I've heard the Unseelie Court uses those to track terrified prey through their forests, using the echoes of fear left behind. A chilling use for such a seemingly beautiful thing, turning a personal moment into a hunting tool. Clever, but cruel.
It is. Another perilous plant is Windrazor, a deadly grass that dominates vast plains, covering them like a normal field. In a light breeze, it hums pleasantly, almost invitingly, sounding like a gentle melody. But in any stronger wind, its ribbed blades vibrate at such a high frequency that entire fields are transformed into a whirlwind of razor-sharp edges, capable of slicing an unprepared creature to ribbons in moments, leaving only a red mist. And then there's Liquid Twilight, a strange, volatile black fluid that sometimes falls as rain, coating the leaves and ground. It feels completely dry to the touch, defying expectations, and curiously, if it's removed from the Feywild, it instantly transforms into a sphere of magical darkness, vanishing into nothingness, leaving no trace. Finally, the lorebark trees. These broadleaf trees grow in magical copses, often forming ancient, silent groves. Under the direct light of a full moon, glowing blue runes appear on their leaves, shimmering with ancient power. Under the right conditions, these runes can reveal profound prophecies or long-forgotten spells, offering immense knowledge. But under the wrong ones, they have been known to drive a reader utterly mad, their minds breaking under the weight of cosmic truths. Very dangerous knowledge.
The creatures there, truly fantastical. Each seem to embody some aspect of the plane itself, almost as if they were born from its very essence. Like living symbols.
They certainly do. Take Blinkdargs, for example. These intelligent, dog-like Fey possess the innate ability to teleport or blink in and out of existence almost instantaneously, appearing and disappearing as if by magic. This power is a direct reflection of the Feywild's unstable and fluid geography, allowing them to navigate its shifting landscape with ease. They are typically lawful in alignment and are often found serving as loyal companions to Seelie Fey on their grand hunts, their spatial agility making them perfect for pursuing quarry. Their sworn, mortal enemies are the Displacer Beasts. These magnificent Fey Panthers are cloaked in a constant glamour that makes them appear to be several feet from their actual location, embodying the plane's deceptive and illusory nature, making them incredibly difficult to strike.
The ancient fundamental war between them. A clash between straightforward spatial magic, honest teleportation, and deceptive illusion, a trick of the eye. A true reflection of the Feywild's paradoxes, the battle between truth and deception, played out in tooth and claw. It's like the whole plane distilled into two creatures.
It truly is. The Feywild also serves as a sanctuary for megafauna, many creatures that are extinct or exceedingly rare on the material plane, creatures that once roamed our world but have long since vanished. Herds of mammoths, giant sloths, massive aurochs, and other prehistoric beasts roam its plains and forests, thriving in its vibrant, untamed wilderness, preserved in this timeless realm. And beyond these, the plain is teeming with a vast array of other creatures, both sylvan and monstrous. It is home to centaurs, dryads, pixies, satyrs, and unicorns, creatures of beauty and ancient wisdom, but also goblins, giants, ogres, and hags, who represent the plain's darker, more primal side. Even creatures from other planes can be transformed by the Feywild's pervasive influence. Green dragons, for instance, that settle in the plane, are said to have evolved into the illusion-wielding mirage dragons, gaining potent new abilities from the plane's magic, becoming masters of deceit and illusion. The sentient races that call the Feywild home are as diverse and mercurial as the plane itself. Their societies, and even their very biologies, are profoundly shaped by the plane's extreme emotional and magical environment. The quintessential people of the Feywild are the Eladrin. These are elves whose very beings have been fundamentally transformed by centuries of continuous exposure to the plane's raw magic, becoming living embodiments of its essence.
They're so different from their material plane cousins, aren't they? Our elves learn to temper their emotions, keep them controlled, to seek balance. The Eladrin seem to be utterly ruled by them, expressing them without restraint, like walking emotions.
That is their most remarkable trait, and it speaks to the very nature of the Feywild. Their physical appearance, their very personality, and even their magical abilities shift to perfectly match their current emotional state, manifesting as one of 4 distinct seasonal aspects. An Eladrin bursting with pure joy becomes an Eladrin of spring, their skin and hair taking on vibrant greens and pinks, often wreathed in fresh flowers. One consumed by profound sorrow or melancholy becomes a winter Eladrin, pale blue or white, with frost and rime possibly appearing on their form, their touch chilling. They are, in essence, a living embodiment of the Feywild's fundamental law that emotion is reality, not merely a fleeting sensation. Let's delve into these seasonal aspects and their implications. The autumn Eladrin, when experiencing peace, contentment, or goodwill, might display skin and hair in rich red, orange, and gold hues, often adorned with autumn leaves. They possess the ability to charm up to 2 creatures, soothing their minds with their serene presence. The winter Eladrin, when overcome by sorrow, contemplation, or melancholy, appear with pale blue or white skin and hair, often wreathed in frost and rime. They can emanate an aura of fear, capable of frightening one creature with their chilling despair. The spring Eladrin, brimming with joy, celebration, or mischief, exhibit vibrant green and pink skin and hair, with flowers possibly sprouting from their form. They possess the delightful ability to teleport one willing creature they touch, a playful manifestation of their exuberance. And finally, the summer Eladrin, fueled by wrath, boldness, or passion, manifests golden skin and hair, radiating palpable heat, and can even deal fire damage to nearby creatures, a burning expression of their intense emotions. Their very forms are a shifting palette of feeling.
And the ones I met, the satyrs, they truly embody the hedonistic, celebratory, chaotic revelry of the plane. Live for the moment, for music and dance. And the pixies, little tricksters, always delighting in leading travelers astray with their illusions and minor pranks, never with true malice, but always for their own amusement. Harmless, mostly, but annoying if you're trying to get somewhere.
They represent those core aspects of the Feywild's character, its lighter, more mischievous side. Beyond them, we have the hags, who are ancient, powerful, and typically malevolent Fey. They often operate outside the formal court structures, choosing to weave their own dark webs of influence. They are masters of curses, dark prophecies, and extremely dangerous bargains, their words laced with hidden venom. The most powerful among them, the archhag Baba Yaga, is a planar traveler of immense power and unpredictable temperament, known to appear in any realm she pleases to pursue her inscrutable goals, leaving chaos in her wake. In many lore traditions, even creatures we commonly associate with monstrosity on the material plane, like goblinoids, ogres, and giants, are said to have Fey origins, twisted reflections of the plane's more primal energies. Goblins in particular are often seen as disgruntled or corrupted sprites, twisted by some ancient sorrow or malice into their more malevolent forms.
I've observed that these darker Fey often serve the unseelie court, or roam the wilderness as primal, monstrous denizens, embodying the wilder, more brutal side of the plane, a constant threat lurking in the shadows. Part of the natural order there, I suppose.
And the Feywild's influence extends even to mortals who merely brush against its borders or linger within it. Those who are lost in the plane as children and grow up there, adapting to its strange laws and wild magic, are known as the Feylost. Their very essence becomes intertwined with the plane, granting them subtle magical abilities and an otherworldly perspective. It's also said that the race of changelings originated in the Feywild, their innate shape-shifting ability, a direct reflection of the plane's own mutable and wondrous essence. Their very existence forces us to question the nature of identity itself as they embody constant transformation.
As I learned the hard way, you don't just walk into the Feywild. Not unless you're incredibly lucky or incredibly unlucky. It feels more like stumbling into a dream than crossing a border. One moment you're here, the next, somewhere else entirely.
You're absolutely right. Passage between the material plane and the Feywild is possible through phenomena known as Fey crossings. These are not always stable, arching portals, as one might imagine for a planar gateway, a shimmering doorway in the air. More often, they are simply locations where the veil, the boundary between the planes, is naturally thin, allowing for transit, a bleed-through of planar energies. The nature of these crossings is as varied and whimsical as the Feywild itself. A crossing might be a permanent, albeit subtle, feature of the landscape, like a particular glade, or it could be a transient event, opening only under specific and often obscure conditions. Perhaps it only appears during a full moon, or at the exact moment of dawn, or only for a person carrying a very specific item, or even on a particular obscure day of the year known only to ancient Fey lore. Classic examples include a ring of mushrooms, which might compel those who enter to dance uncontrollably until they pass through, or a shimmering pool of water that acts as a gateway, an ancient archway formed by intertwined trees, a hollow log through which one must crawl, or a circle of standing stones that activate under specific celestial alignments. But more esoteric crossings have been documented, tales of which chill the blood. Imagine a specific rabbit hole that opens directly to the Feywild, or the back of a wardrobe carved from Feywood imbued with its magic, or even a particular crack in a city sidewalk that only becomes a portal when a specific comet is overhead, linking the mundane to the magical. The transition, as you experienced, is often seamless, disorienting in its lack of fanfare. A traveler might simply take a single step and find themselves utterly in the Feywild, not realizing they've crossed a planar boundary until the world around them proves too strange, too vivid, too whimsical to be their own. However, a key danger of these crossings is that their rules are notoriously inconsistent. A portal that allows entry into the Feywild may not, by any means, provide a path for return. The method for leaving might be entirely different, requiring a perilous bargain with a Fey creature, the solving of an impossible riddle, or finding another, completely hidden crossing that only appears fleetingly. This unpredictability is a classic feature of Fey folklore and a very common trap for unwary adventurers, a cruel game played with mortal lives. Cosmologically, the Feywild's proximity to the material plane is significantly facilitated by the ethereal plane. As a transitive plane, the ethereal overlaps with the material, the Feywild, and the Shadowfell, creating a border ethereal that touches all three. This shared border is the metaphysical medium through which these crossings can form, the thin membrane between worlds. While powerful magic, like a plane shift spell, can certainly grant direct access, it is these natural thin spots in the planar fabric that account for the vast majority of traffic, both intentional and accidental, between the worlds, making it possible for any unwary traveler to stumble into enchantment. The history of the multiverse is truly punctuated by significant events stemming from the Feywild's interaction with other planes. These encounters have shaped entire races, irrevocably altered geographies, and often served as enduring cautionary tales for those who would meddle with Fey power. In the primordial past, for instance, the Feywild and the material plane drifted much closer to one another, allowing for regular and easy passage between them, as if they were once almost one.
And this was when many Fey creatures, including the ancestors of the elves themselves, first migrated to mortal worlds like Peril, that great continent. This ancient migration is the origin point for countless Fey-descended races and creatures that we now consider native to the material plane, their bloodlines forever entwined with the Feywild. Our history is tied to theirs.
That's right. The elves who remained in the Feywild during that initial closeness evolved over millennia into the Eladrin we know today, forever changed by the plane's magic, becoming infused with its wild emotions. Those who left became the elves we are familiar with, forever tied to their Fey ancestry, but adapted to the material plane, learning to temper their emotions and live by different rhythms. This connection between the planes isn't static either. Major magical events on the material plane can drastically alter its relationship with the Feywild, sending ripples across the planar fabric. Take the spell plague on Peril, for instance. That was a cataclysm of such immense magnitude that it violently yanked the Feywild back into incredibly close proximity, tearing open new, unstable Fey crossings across the entire world, creating chaos and opening new rights for creatures from both sides.
And the astonishing fact is that the entire elven nation of Evermead, a place of profound beauty and ancient power, was pulled from the material plane and simply vanished into the Feywild during that chaos, where it remains to this day, lost to our world, but existing elsewhere. A city trapped in a timeless dream. Just gone. Unbelievable.
It's a prime example of a dynamic, reactive relationship between the planes, where the fate of one can have immediate and dramatic consequences for its echo, a constant dance of cause and effect. Another profoundly significant historical encounter, one that resulted in the creation of an entirely new race, is the fall of the Fadark. A faction of Fey elves, in a misguided attempt to aid the enigmatic entity known as the Raven Queen in her ascension to godhood, were tragically caught in the devastating backlash of a failed ritual, a forbidden magic too great for them.
And they were violently pulled from the Feywild and cast into the desolate gloom of the Shadowfell. A brutal twist of fate, transforming them into something utterly different, from light to shadow.
Indeed. The Shadowfell's soul-draining nature then twisted them over generations, transforming them into the Fadark, a race of grim, shadow-touched elves who are now a dark, somber mirror to their vibrant Eladrin cousins. This event stands as a stark warning about the dangers of meddling with the powers of gods and planes without truly understanding the consequences, a testament to how an echo plane can warp and reshape its inhabitants.
But beyond those grand world-shaping events, the most common and intimate interaction with the Fey is the Fey Bargain. Something, I might add, I have wisely avoided. Heard too many bad stories.
And for good reason, for it is a perilous game. Fey creatures are bound by ancient, inviolable laws of hospitality and reciprocity. They cannot speak a direct lie, and they are absolutely compelled to honor the letter of any promise they make, no matter how dire. However, they are unparalleled masters of twisting words, exploiting hidden loopholes, and relying heavily on a mortal's own assumptions to deceive them. A visitor must navigate a labyrinth of bizarre etiquette to survive an encounter without losing something precious. For example, never say thank you, as this creates a magical debt that the Fey will undoubtedly demand payment for, often in an unexpected currency. Never accept a gift without immediately offering one of equal and often esoteric value in return, lest you become indebted. And perhaps most importantly, never ever consume Fey food or drink, lest you become trapped in the realm forever, unable to leave, bound by the magic of their hospitality. That's the classic trap.
And the typical outcome. A mortal forfeiting something incredibly dear to them, a cherished memory, the very color of their eyes, their own name, or simply decades of their life, stolen away in an instant, their past erased. A terrible price.
Exactly. Recent tales, such as those concerning the Witchlight Carnival, center entirely on the long-term, often devastating consequences of such seemingly innocent bargains made with the Fae. These encounters, more than any grand planar war, truly define the perilous relationship between mortals and the people of the Feywild. It reminds us that magic is not just about power, but about understanding the hidden costs and the subtle rules that govern its deepest expressions. So, as we conclude our journey into the plane of Fairy, what we find is a realm of profound and dangerous paradoxes. It is a land of breathtaking beauty that can, paradoxically, kill with its sheer intensity. A place of joyous celebration that masks a startling capacity for cruelty, and a waking dream that can all too easily become a timeless nightmare. Its very essence is raw, untamed, emotional magic, a direct legacy of its primordial creators who sought to isolate the material plane's brightest excesses. This act of creation established the Feywild not just as an echo, but as a necessary metaphysical counterweight to the mortal world and its gloomy twin, the Shadowfell, forever defining it as a place of vibrant, dangerous extremes. It is a living, mutable expression of unfiltered emotion.
It's a plane where its geography is fluid, where time itself is a treacherous snare for the unwary, and its inhabitants are as mercurial and unpredictable as the plane itself. A place where logic is often secondary to instinct and feeling. You have to trust your gut, not just your head. The great courts of Seelie and Unseelie are not merely political bodies, but the living embodiments of competing philosophies of nature. The ideal versus the wild, the beautiful versus the powerful, each vying for supremacy in a grand, endless game. And the creatures that populate the plane, from the teleporting blink dog to the season-shifting Eladrin, are living manifestations of the Feywild unique physical and additional laws. For any planar scholar or would-be adventurer, the ultimate conclusion is this. The Feywild is a realm where the laws of physics are secondary to the laws of narrative. Logic is a fragile tool in a place governed by raw emotion, and survival depends less on strength of arms than on an intuitive understanding of the ancient, binding rules of hospitality, reciprocity, and the perils of a Fey bargain. It forces you to rethink everything you know about reality. To step into the Feywild is to willingly step into a living fairy tale, a story actively being written by the land and its people. And you are immediately cast as a character within it. You must be prepared to play your part with wit and caution, lest you become just another tragic figure in a story told to warn the next traveler away from the perilous beauty of the Plane of Fairy. It is a realm that demands not just respect, but a complete surrender to its whims.
We hope this Realm Talk has offered you new insights into one of the multiverse's most captivating realms. Be sure to subscribe for more journeys into the hidden truths that bind our existence.
You leave a comment, send word to us on what grand mystery or perilous plane we should unravel next. We're always curious.
Until next time, may your path be clear and your insights profound.
And may your encounters be more of the wonder and less of the wild.
This has been Ember Rivenvale.
And Ronan Greymark, joining you again for Realm Talk.